I wanted to just kind of show you how things are expressed as Booleans in Python. So basically, anything that exists properly, like a string or a number that isn't zero, or any sort of list or set or tuple, which we'll get to later on in the semester, or dictionary. So we'll get to those in the coming weeks: dictionaries, tuples, lists. We're doing lists next week. If it's not empty, it's basically true. So it's basically, does this thing exist? If it does in some form or fashion, it's true. If it doesn't exist, if it's an empty set, so if you're familiar with math, you might have heard of empty sets before. If it's an empty set, it's considered false because does it exist? True. Does it not exist? False, because there's nothing in it. So basically, that's kind of the main way Booleans function. So if you wanted to express something as a Boolean, so if I make x the string high and I run it and I say bool of x, it's basically going to tell me is it true or false. And in this case, it's true. Okay, well, y equals 5. Well, it's a number that isn't 0, so it expresses it as true. Z is an empty string or an empty set. Like, I could make this curly Q brackets that are empty. I can make it a list of square brackets that's empty. But right now it's just a string that's empty. It says it's false because there's nothing there. And then if Q is equal to 0 is the Boolean of Q, it is false. So 0 is expressed as false. An empty set, an empty list, an empty string, an empty tuple, all of that is expressed as false. Basically, anything else is expressed as true. So basically, it's Python kind of sorting and deciding, does this thing exist? Is there anything there? If there's something there, it's true. If there's not anything there, it's false. Or if it's 0, it's false. So how do we take this Boolean functionality and actually do something with it? That's where we bring in conditional statements. So basically if-else statements. If you worked in other languages, you're probably familiar with something similar. So I made a little program here that basically allows for us to prompt and determine whether or not someone is old enough to vote in the United States. So the way we're going to express it is it's going to prompt how old I am. So let's say I'm 17. So I run it and it says you're not old enough to vote yet. You can vote in 1 years. So if I try this again and I say I'm 26, then it says I'm eligible to vote and to make sure to register if you have not done so already. And that applies to all of you. If you haven't registered to vote, make sure that you register to vote, because for some reason we decided that if you are of legal age to vote, you don't automatically get to show up and vote. We make you say you actually want to vote before you're allowed to go vote. So if you haven't done that already, go for it. If you don't want to vote, then I guess don't do anything. But yeah, so that's how it works. So how is this working? Well, basically what it's doing is I have it inputting age as whatever the input is, and then I'm expressing it as an integer. And then I have this if statement here. So if is one of those special keywords where basically if you put an if there, it's assuming that you want to do some sort of conditional statement. So if you want to use the word if in a string, you got to make sure it's in a string and in quotation marks and stuff like that. And the nice thing about it is it kind of highlights it. I mean, even if you're using like basic idle shell from downloaded Python 3, it will still express and highlight these kind of in a special like hyperlink type of color to let you know one of the special words has kind of been expressed, and now give us a statement that is actually useful. So since I've coded the age as a number, I can use math operators. So greater than or equal to is the greater than sign equal 18. So that's basically saying, okay, if this age integer is greater than or equal to 18, it's going to express that as a true statement, and whatever code I have below it, which is the print statement, is going to be expressed. So since I put 26, 26 is compared to 18, so it's basically doing, if I go up here and I say, okay, bool 26 is greater than 18, it should express true. So that's what it's doing behind the scenes. It's saying, okay, I have a Boolean where I'm comparing the integer of 26 with the integer of 18. If it's greater than or equal to 18, then it's expressing it as true. So I could even do, I think 26 is greater than or equal to 18, true. So if we did like 18, it should be true. If we do 17, it's going to be false. So when it expresses it as false, what it's going to do is it's going to move to the else statement. So basically, if it's not greater than or equal to 18, it's expressing it as false, and then it's going to choose the other conditional statement, which is else. So else is going to express if it's not this, then print this, but if it is this, then print that. That's basically what we're doing here. So someone asked if I put a space here between the greater than and the equal sign, it won't work. You are correct. So the correct notation is that it has to be like this. And also, if you want to do exactly equal to, you have to do double equals. So if I put 18 here, it'll work. If I put 19 here, it will give me the else statement for the exact equal sign. So if it's less than or equal to 18, then it's going to give me that. And if I put 21, it's going to tell me the else statement. So less than or equal to, you got to put the less than sign, the equal sign. If you want equal to, double equals. If you want greater than or equal to, greater than equal. So make sure that, again, if it's equal, double equals not. And then I believe if you just want it to not be 18, you do this. So if you do, whoops. Oh, sorry. Duh. That's not equals to. So it's saying you're eligible to vote because you're not exactly 18. So exclamation point equals is not equal to. I don't know why I did the slash. My brain just kind of short-circuited there, so sorry about that. So now the program's back to the way we would expect it to be. So basically, behind the scenes, what it's doing is it's working a Boolean in the if statement. And if the if statement is true, then it will print whatever is below the prompt in the if statement. If it's not true, then it's going to express the else statement. Does that make sense? Okay. Well, the reason why I asked the third prompt is there might be a scenario where it might be true in one case, it might be some other semblance of true in another case, and it might be just straight up false in another case. So let's do the ability to drink alcohol legally in the United States. So the way this is working is it's creating a prompt asking you, well, it should be asking, are you old enough to drink? So let's fix that. So are you old enough to drink alcohol? Enter your age here. Same as before up here. Age is an input, age is the integer, and now we have it where if you're older than 21 or equal to 21, you're old enough to drink in the United States. Okay? But if you're not from the United States and you're 18 or 19 years old and you're coming to the United States, or you're from the United States and you're 18 or 19 or 20 years old and you go to Europe or you go to Canada, you don't have that restriction anymore. In those countries, the drinking age is usually 18 or 19 years old. It's even lower in some countries. So let's go with Canada because Canada's pretty close. We live in West Michigan, but if you were over in Detroit, it's just a drive across the bridge. Or if you're in Sault Ste. Marie, it's drive across the bridge. Or you can boat across the Detroit River or across Lake Huron or across Superior, wherever. So if you are between the ages of 19 and 21, you're not allowed to drink in the US, but you can drink in Canada. It turns out that there are some provinces that allow for you to drink in 18 or at 18 in Canada, but most, including Ontario, which is the one that borders Michigan, it's 19. So we're going to go with 19. So if you are between the ages of 19 and 21, or under 21, but older than 19, you are old enough to drink in Canada. So what'll happen is this Boolean will read the first statement, see if it's true or not. If it's true, then it expresses the print statement of that. And then if it's false, instead of it just printing out kind of a binary answer of yes, it is this, and no, it is this, it goes to the second conditional statement, which is saying elif. So basically, ELIF or ELIF is basically your additional conditional prompt. So instead of you just having a binary if-else statement, you can actually have an ELIF statement that basically prompts you or allows for you to have a second prompt. So you're like, okay, well, they're not 21, they can't drink here, but that doesn't mean they can't drink anywhere. So maybe you wanted to make a program that basically had someone input their age and then they add every country in the world. It would do a bunch of conditional statements to basically say, okay, well, are you going to Germany? You can drink in Germany. You can go to drink in Canada. Again, this is not condoning of alcoholic consumption anyways, by the way. That's why it says drink responsibly here. I'm not condoning alcohol use or not condoning alcohol use. I am just using it as an example. So if you're under the age of 19, you can't drink in the US or Canada. So the prompt is now telling you how long you have to wait to be able to drink in the United States. So basically, conditional statements don't have to be binary. So it can be, it's binary in the fact that it's true, false in the Boolean, but you can add as many conditional statements to a conditional as you want. You can have 500 elifs in here if you wanted to. Maybe that's not the most efficient way to do it. You might be able to come up with a loop or something or some sort of vectorization that's more efficient in terms of solving this. But for kind of getting off the ground and understanding kind of how true false works, conditional statements, and how you can kind of make it more versatile, this is an example. So let's do an example where we say we're 17. Well, so what did it do? It went through this Boolean and said, okay, false. 17 is not greater than or equal to 21. Then it went to the second statement and said, okay, false. It's not greater than or equal to 19. So it just printed out the else statement. So if we do this again and we say we're 20, it's going to say, okay, well, you're not 21, so it's false. But then it's going to say, okay, well, you're older than 19, so this is true, so we're going to print this statement. So it says now, you're old enough to drink in Canada, so please drink responsibly, and don't forget your passport. Because you do need well, I guess you could have an enhanced driver's license, but whatever. And then if we try this again and say, okay, we're 25, then it says you're old enough to drink alcohol in the United States, so please drink responsibly. So is everyone okay with that? Does that make sense? So that's basically how true false, that's what Boolean statements do. So basically, what we're going to do now is your exercise for this week is to basically use a conditional statement to create a simple rock, paper, scissors game. Okay? So basically, you'll need to create two inputs, player one's input, player two's input, and then basically use a conditional statement to determine who wins. So we're not going to have it loop around in that you play over and over again. We're not, you want, I'm trying to see if I don't want you to have to worry about, okay, well, what happens? Well, it doesn't matter if they both pick the same thing because it's going to end in a tie. Um, so basically that is your exercise for this week, your